Hello and welcome to the Not Alone Today Chronological Bible Reading Plan with Joseph and Anu. Today we begin week 3 and so we are in day 15. We'll be reading Genesis chapters 43 through 46. And because we are starting a new week, we'll be switching translations again. And this week we'll be in the Contemporary English Version, the CEV. We'll begin with Genesis 43.
Chapter 43. The famine in Canaan got worse, until finally Jacob's family had eaten all the grain they had bought in Egypt. So Jacob said to his sons, "Go back and buy some more grain."
Judah replied, "The governor strictly warned us that we would not be allowed to see him unless we brought our youngest brother with us. If you let us take Benjamin along, we will go and buy grain, but we won't go without him."
Jacob asked, "Why did you cause me so much trouble by telling the governor you had another brother?"
They answered, "He asked a lot of questions about us and our family. He wanted to know if you were still alive and if we had any more brothers. All we could do was answer his questions. How could we know he would tell us to bring along our brother?"
Then Judah said to his father, "Let Benjamin go with me, and we will leave at once, so that none of us will starve to death. I promise to bring him back safely, and if I don't, you can blame me as long as I live. If we had not wasted all this time, we could already have been there and back twice."
Their father said, "If Benjamin must go with you, take the governor a gift of some of the best things from our own country, such as perfume, honey, spices, pistachio nuts, and almonds. Also take along twice the amount of money for the grain, because there must have been some mistake when the money was put back in your sacks. Take Benjamin with you and leave at once. When you go in to see the governor, I pray that God all-powerful will be good to you, and that the governor will let your other brother and Benjamin come back home with you. But if I must lose my children, I suppose I must."
The brothers took the gifts, twice the amount of money, and Benjamin. Then they hurried off to Egypt. When they stood in front of Joseph, he saw Benjamin and told the servant in charge of his house, "Take this man to my house, slaughter an animal and cook it so they can eat with me at noon."
The servants did as he was told and took the brothers to Joseph's house. But on the way they got worried and started thinking, "We are being taken there because of the money that was put back in our sacks last time. He will arrest us and make us his slaves and take our donkeys."
So when they arrived at Joseph's house, they said to the servant in charge, "Sir, we came to Egypt once before to buy grain, but when we stopped for the night, we each found in our grain sacks the exact amount we had paid. We have brought that money back, together with enough money to buy grains. We don't know who put the money in our sacks."
"It's all right," the servant replied. "Don't worry. The God you and your father worship must have put the money there, because I received your payment in full." Then he brought Simeon out to them.
The servant took them into Joseph's house and gave them water to wash their feet. He also tended their donkeys. The brothers got their gifts ready to give Joseph at noon, since they had heard that they were going to eat there.
When Joseph came home, they gave him the gifts they had brought, and they bowed down to him. After Joseph had asked how they were, he said, "What about your elderly father? Is he still alive?"
They answered, "Your servant, our father, is still alive and well." And again they bowed down to Joseph.
When Joseph looked around and saw his brother Benjamin, he said, "This must be your youngest brother, the one you told me about. God bless you, my son."
Then, because of his love for Benjamin, he rushed off to his room and cried. After washing his face and returning, he was able to control himself and said, "Serve the meal."
Joseph was served at a table by himself, and his brothers were served at another. The Egyptians sat at yet another table, because Egyptians felt it was disgusting to eat with Hebrews. To the surprise of Joseph's brothers, they were seated in front of him according to their ages, from the oldest to the youngest. They were served food from Joseph's table. and Benjamin was given 5 times as much as each of the others. So Joseph's brothers ate and drank with him and had a good time.
Chapter 44. Later, Joseph told the servant in charge of his house, "Fill the men's grain sacks with as much as they can hold, and put their money in the sacks. Also put my silver cup in the sack of the youngest brother." The servant did as he was told.
Early the next morning, the men were sent on their way with their donkeys. But they had not gone far from the city when Joseph told the servant, "Go after those men. When you catch them, say, 'My master has been good to you, so why have you stolen his silver cup?' Not only does he drink from his cup, but he also uses it to learn about the future. You have done a terrible thing."
When the servant caught up with them, he did exactly what Joseph had told him to say. But they replied, "Sir, why did you say such things? We would never do anything like that. We even returned the money we found in our grain sacks when we got back to Canaan. So why would we want to steal any silver or gold from your master's house? If you find that one of us has a cup, then kill him, and the rest of us will become your slave."
"Good," the man replied. "I'll do what you have said, but only the one who has the cup will become my slave. The rest of you can go free."
Each of the brothers quickly put a sack on the ground and opened it. Joseph's servants started searching the sacks, beginning with the one that belonged to the oldest brother. When he came to Benjamin's sack, he found the cup. This upset the brothers so much that they began tearing their clothes in sorrow. Then they loaded their donkeys and returned to the city.
When Judah and his brothers got there, Joseph was still at home. So they bowed down to Joseph, who asked them, "What have you done? Didn't you know I could find out?"
"Sir, what can we say?" Judah replied. "How can we say we are innocent when God has shown we are guilty? Now all of us are your slaves, especially the one who had the cup."
Joseph told them, "I would never punish all of you. Only the one who was caught with the cup will become my slave. The rest of you are free to go home to your father."
Judah went over to Joseph and said, "Sir, you have as much power as the king himself, and I am only your slave. Please don't get angry if I speak. You asked us if our father was still alive and if we had any more brothers. So we told you, our father is a very old man. In fact, he was already old when Benjamin was born. Benjamin's brother is dead. Now Benjamin is the only one of the 2 brothers who is still alive, and our father loves him very much.
You ordered us to bring him here so you could see him for yourself. We told you that our father would die if Benjamin left him. But you warned us that we could never see you again unless our youngest brother came with us. So we returned to our father and reported what you had said.
Later, our father sent us back here to buy more grain. But we told him, we can't go back to Egypt without our youngest brother. We would never be let in to see the governor unless he is with us."
"Sir, our father then reminded us that his favorite wife had given birth to 2 sons. One of them was already missing and had not been seen for a long time. My father thinks the boy was torn to pieces by some wild animal. And he said, 'I am an old man. If you take Benjamin from me and something happens to him, I will die of a broken heart.'
That's why Benjamin must be with us when I go back to my father. He loves him so much that he will die if Benjamin doesn't come back with me. I promised my father that I will bring him safely home. If I don't, I told my father he could blame me the rest of my life."
Sir, I am your slave. Please let me stay here in place of Benjamin and let him return home with his brothers. How can I face my father if Benjamin isn't with me? I couldn't bear to see my father in such sorrow."
Chapter 45. Since Joseph could no longer control his feelings in the front of his servants, he sent them out of the room. When he was alone with his brothers, he told them, "I am Joseph." Then he cried so loudly that the Egyptians heard him and told about it in the king's palace.
Joseph asked his brothers if his father was still alive, but they were too frightened to answer. Joseph told them to come closer to him, and when they did, he said,
"Yes, I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. Don't worry or blame yourself for what you did. God is the one who sent me ahead of you to save lives.
There has already been a famine for 2 years, and for 5 more years no one will plow fields or harvest grain. But God sent me on ahead of you to keep your families alive and to save you in this wonderful way. After all, you weren't really the ones who sent me here. It was God. He made me the highest official in the king's court and placed me over all Egypt.
Now hurry back and tell my father that his son Joseph says, God has made me ruler of Egypt. Come here quickly as you can. You will live near me in the region of Goshen with your children and grandchildren, as well as with your sheep, goats, cattle, and everything else you own. I'll take care of you there during the next 5 years of famine. But if you don't come, you and your family and your animals will starve to death.
All of you, including my brother Benjamin, can tell by what I have said that I am really Joseph. Tell my father about my great power here in Egypt and about everything you have seen. Hurry and bring him here.
Joseph and Benjamin hugged each other and started crying. Joseph was still crying as he kissed each of his other brothers. After this, they started talking with Joseph.
When it was told in the palace that Joseph's brothers had come, the king and his officials were happy. So the king said to Joseph,
Tell your brothers to load their donkeys and return to Canaan. Tell them to bring their father and their families here. I will give them the best land in Egypt, and they can eat and enjoy everything that grows there. Also tell your brothers to take some wagons from Egypt for their wives and children to ride in, and be sure they bring their father. They can leave their possessions behind because they will be given the best of everything in Egypt.
Jacob's sons agreed to do what the king had said, and Joseph gave them wagons and food for their trip home, just as the king had ordered. Joseph gave some new clothes to each of his brothers, but to Benjamin he gave 5 new outfits and 300 pieces of silver. To his father he sent 10 donkeys and loaded with the best things in Egypt, and 10 other donkeys loaded with grain and bread and other food for their return trip. Then he sent his brothers off and told them, Don't argue on the way home.
Joseph's brothers left Egypt, and when they arrived in Canaan, they told their father that Joseph was still alive and was the ruler of Egypt. But their father was so surprised that he could not believe them. Then they told him everything Joseph had said. And when he saw the wagons Joseph had sent, he felt much better and said, Now I can believe you. My son Joseph must really be alive, and I will get to see him before I die.
Chapter 46. Jacob packed up everything he owned and left for Egypt. On the way, he stopped near the town of Beersheba and offered sacrifices to the God his father Isaac had worshipped. That night, God spoke to him in a dream and said, Jacob, Jacob.
Here I am, Jacob answered.
God said, I am God, the same God your father worshipped. Don't be afraid to go to Egypt. I will give you so many descendants that one day they will become a nation, and I will go with you to Egypt. And later I will bring your descendants back here. Your son Joseph will be at your side when you die.
Jacob and his family set out from Beersheba and headed to Egypt. His sons put him in the wagon that the king had sent for him, and they put their small children and their wives in the other wagons. Jacob's whole family went to Egypt, including his sons, his grandsons, his daughters, and his granddaughters. They took along their animals and everything else they owned.
When Jacob went to Egypt, his children who were born in northern Syria also went along with their families.
Jacob and his wife Leah had a total of 33 children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, but 2 of their grandchildren had died in Canaan.
Their oldest son, Reuben, took his sons Hanoch, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. Their son Simeon took his sons Jemuel, Jamin, Hoad, Jachin, Zoar, and Shaul, whose mother was a Canaanite. Their son Levi took his sons Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. Their son Judah took his sons Shelah, Perez, and Zerah. Judah's sons Er and Onan had died in Canaan. Judah's son Perez took his sons Ezron and Hamul. Their son Issachar took his sons Tola, Puva, Jashub, and Shimron. Their son Zebulun took his sons Sered, Elon, and Jalil. Their daughter Dinah also went.
Jacob and Zilpah, the servant woman Laban had given his daughter Leah, had a total of 16 children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren.
Their son Gad took his sons Ziphion, Haggai, Shuni, Esbon, Eri, Arodi, and Areli. Their son Asher took his sons Imnah, Ishva, Ishvi, and Beriah, who took his sons Heber and Malchiel. Sarah, the daughter of Hashah, also went.
Jacob and Rachel had 14 children and grandchildren.
Their son Joseph was already in Egypt, where he had married Asenath, daughter of Potipherah, the priest of Heliopolis. Joseph and Asenath had 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. Jacob and Rachel's son Benjamin took his sons Bela, Beshar, Hashbel, Jerah, Naaman, Ehi, Rosh, Mopim, Hupim, and Ard.
Jacob and Bilhah, the servant woman Laban had given his daughter Rachel, had 7 children and grandchildren.
Their son Dan took his son Hushim. Their son Naphtali took his sons Jazil, Guni, Jezar, and Shilem.
66 members of Jacob's family went to Egypt with him, not counting his daughters-in-law. Jacob's 2 grandsons who were born there made it a total of 70 members of Jacob's family in Egypt.
Jacob had sent his son Judah ahead of him to ask Joseph to meet them in Goshen. So Joseph got in his chariot and went to meet his father. When they met, Joseph hugged his father around the neck and cried for a long time. Jacob said to Joseph, "Now that I have seen you and know you are still alive, I am ready to die."
Then Joseph said to his brothers and to everyone who had come with them, "I must go and tell the king that you have arrived from Canaan. I will tell him that you are shepherds and that you have brought your sheep, goats, cattle, and everything else you own. The king will call you in and ask what you do for a living. When he does, be sure to say, 'We are shepherds. Our families have always raised sheep.' If you tell him this, he will let you settle in the region of Goshen."
Joseph wanted them to say this to the king because the Egyptians did not like to be around anyone who raised sheep. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Quite an interesting climax to the story from where we left off on day 14.
True.
Yeah. From the 3 chapters, any major standout points for you?
Okay, just a run through of each chapter, just a summary of each chapter. Chapter 43 was when Joseph's brother returned to Egypt with Benjamin. And then 44 was about the missing cup, where Joseph put a silver cup in Benjamin's sack just to implicate them. And then chapter 45 was when Joseph told his brother who he was. And then 46 was when Jacob and his family went to Egypt.
Good. Thanks for the recap.
Thank you.
Any standout points?
What I got from chapter 43 is Jacob's wisdom in sending gifts to Joseph. And that's verse 11 to 15. I found it very instructive. There's someone who is after you and everything. He's demanding to see all your family and you're not sure, you're confused about his intention. But then it was inspired, I believe, to send a gift ahead. We don't know what happened with the gift, but I just thought it was quite wise to have done that.
Yeah, that's, that reminds me of a proverb in Yoruba that says, "Ẹni tó bá fẹ́ Teletutu adomisiwaju in a temperate region. If you want to walk on cool ground, then you have to pour water ahead of you, like literally. So metaphorically or idiomatically, what that simply means is what, sending the gift ahead is supposed to give them a soft landing, so that, there is already an implication that is pending. How come your money was still in your sack? Okay, we did not mean to take it. So here is our apology as well as a gift. Ish. But yeah, there's wisdom in that.
Yeah, so chapter 44, what I got was, I think I was more baffled than about how that the brothers did not seek to check their sacks first before swearing that they did not take anything. Meanwhile, something similar happened to them. The first time they came to Egypt and they were returning, they found in their sack on the way back to Canaan that their monies were placed in their sacks, and they were terrified and scared. Now, a servant is running towards you, I'm sure in a chariot or something, and has plainly said, "Why have you stolen my master's silver cup?" But instead of them to say, "Okay, we haven't taken anything, but let's check if it maybe peradventure is in there." But instead, they swore that it wasn't there, and they said, if it is found, they should kill the person that's taken it, and make the rest of them a slave. And it reminded me of the same vehemence that Jacob told Laban that nobody has stolen his household idols.
Yeah.
He was so sure, but he never sought to check or even to ask his wives. So I thought that was a bit like, oh, you should have just checked before swearing. It's just, and I think the instruction to me is, don't just trust blindly, even if it's your family or the person you trust. There's always room to have conversation. Be sure about what you're going to claim to be the truth before then saying it is true.
Wow, that's a very powerful one. Thank you. I mean, as you started discussing it, it also reminded me of the Jacob scenario. In some sense, that's possibly tied to why Rachel died earlier than any of them, because again, Jacob literally placed a curse on, he said, "Cursed be whoever takes it or took it," and that they would die. And that's eventually the fate of Rachel. So yeah, it's good to not be hasty in our judgments, and why swear at all to begin with. Jesus will say, "Let your yes be yes and let your no be no."
True.
And that is all enough. Anything more than this is from the deceptive one. Chapter 45.
Yeah, 45. What I got in 45 was how that before Joseph revealed himself to his brothers, he sent the servants away. But in verse 16, the palace heard that Joseph's brother had come, and the king's officials were happy. And when the word the king sent to Joseph detailed everything that was said. So if the servant had gone and Joseph was seemingly alone with his brothers, how did the news travel to the palace whilst they were still celebrating in a land where there's no phone and things? So that just took me aback, like, okay, the palace heard and they were happy, but nobody told them. Joseph hadn't come to say, this is what is happening, but somehow they heard. So it reminds me of, I don't know if it's a proverb, but it's a saying in Yoruba that they would say, ogirileti, like the walls have ears. So there's no secret as such. So even if you go, what's the word? Soundproof your walls and everything, what would come out would come out. So yeah, it just made me think about the futility of sending the servants away when obviously they heard about it anyway. So
that's interesting. For me, I think it's just the emotional state and vulnerability of Joseph that got to me. Initially, I was beginning to wonder at the end of chapter 44 with the prank of putting the silver cup in Benjamin's bag. The good intention behind it notwithstanding, because I think the whole idea is, okay, at least let me keep Benjamin to myself and let me send those wicked guys back in more terror and more fear and all that.
possible.
But I thought that's something almost sadistic to do. And I thought if he went on to go through with the drama even after Judah's brilliant appeal, I mean, that was also a very good point to note. He came and reasoned with Joseph.
True.
And narrated everything again, like this is what is at stake. If we should go back, just to know that you have killed our father. And of course, at that point, Joseph's defenses were broken in some sense. And then I felt, okay, he's still a good person. He's not that wicked. But yeah, I could relate with such level of vulnerability and his emotional transparency. It's probably why, as a Joseph myself, I find it very easy to cry when watching movies. So I'm in good company.
I thought about the crying as well. Like, it's quite maybe not sentimental.
Sentimental might be the word.
Yeah, because at first there was this loud cry that was heard in the palace.
Yeah.
And then when he hugged his father in chapter 46, he cried for a long time while he was hugging his father. And I'm thinking, okay. You know, earlier when you said that he had emotional transparency, I beg to differ, because in chapter 45, verse 11, it gave a veiled threat to Jacob that if he doesn't come, they will starve to death.
Yeah.
But he's not so mighty that he would know that for sure. Yes, there's famine. Yes, things are happening. Though Joseph kind of assumed the role of I don't know, I don't want to say God, but assumed the role of as though he would maintain their survival, whereas it is God who would maintain the survival. And this ties into the point I got in chapter 46, where Jacob, before leaving, made a sacrifice, and then God spoke to him, and then they left. So therefore, it's not based on Joseph's threat in 45 verse 11 that compelled them to go, but based on the word of God that he has assured them of what he will do when they do get to Egypt.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see the 45:11 as a threat in that sense. I thought it was just being realistic in terms of the extent of this famine. I mean, it got to a point where people had no money to buy those food again. They had to be using their properties to acquire. So I guess it's just painting the starkness of the image, because in verse 9 he has clearly said, God has made me the ruler of Egypt. Like, he's still acknowledging God even in that context. But be that as it may, I saw something again that is happening a second time in the narrative of Abraham's lineage, or even more than once, more than twice now, that when they are on a journey, they meet with God. They build an altar or have an encounter. It happened with Jacob when he was going to Laban's place to marry Rebekah. It happened on his way, to marry Rachel and Leah. And it happened on his way back when he was coming to encounter his brother Esau. And now Jacob is going all the way to Egypt. And again, he also had an encounter with God. And I just see that as saying God is the God of our journeys. He encounters us on the journey of life, of doing life every day, whatever that might look like for each and every one of us. God is willing and able to break through the mundane rhythms of our journeys and reveal himself to us in the midst of it.
Yes. And I wondered in verse 45, verse 5, why did they say he practices divination with his cup?
Yeah.
And that's how he settles matter. It was a bit as though he's serving God and also dabbling into things that shouldn't be mentioned.
I don't know, to be honest. When I read it first,
44 verse 5.
Yes,
not 45.
Not 45. When I read it too, I was like, this Joseph is a good storyteller. Like, in my mind, I'm still seeing it as part of the fiction he's making up in his head, this roller coaster thriller that would reach some I don't know, climax at some point. But yeah, uh, we never know, indeed. What was clear from the narrative is that he's also now beginning to appear like an Egyptian, if that makes sense, which is part of why his brothers would have even struggled to recognize him anyways. He puts up this front of, I'm an Egyptian in some sense. And so perhaps that's just one of the things that Egyptians would do or have, I don't know. Or if it is just to make the brothers more scared, like the kind of cup we're talking about is not an ordinary cup that you can always just go to the market and buy and replace.
True.
This is a special cup that is used for the sole purpose of divination and da 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 da. So yeah.
Just one final question to you. When the brothers when they were having lunch
Yeah.
with Joseph at noon, and they were arranged from the oldest to the youngest, shouldn't that have struck them as weird for a person who doesn't know them?
Yeah.
But they sat and enjoyed their foods. And the fact that Benjamin was given 5 times more,
Yeah.
I won't eat if it was me. Maybe I'll be too scared to stand up. I'll just sit there staring at everybody like, why are you guys eating what? Like, that's suspect in itself.
Yeah. Yeah. He did say that they were surprised, like but they didn't make any much of it, I suppose. But he said they were surprised when he arranged them like that. Like, how did he know? In fact, that's not the first clue. There's been many clues that they should have known that something is up with this particular governor. But yeah, the prince is their brother. The governor is their brother.
When Joseph told them not to reveal to Pharaoh who they were and to say they were shepherds, isn't that deceptive?
It's shrewd.
Shrewd. Good. That's all I need to know.
It's a form of wisdom. I mean, there is some truth to it. It's just not that. So he's leveraging the system to their advantage, basically. He wants them to have the best portion of the land. He wants them to in some sense be out of the way of the reach of the Egyptians, to be left alone, to have their peace and quiet, and at the same time have some really good. And we could tell what Goshen was like when we will get into the book of Exodus and the story of the plagues, and it's happening so far away from them that they could still be secured where they are. So it's almost like it's a separate location in and of itself, where everything is just lush and peaceful and beautiful, and Joseph wanted that for them. So if you tell them you are shepherds, they would keep you as far away from them as possible, but at the same time as comfortable as possible. So yeah, it's just being shrewd, I think.
Okay, thank you. That's all. That's good.
So thank you for joining us for day 15. It's been another interesting journey into the life of Joseph. And on day 16, we bring the book of Genesis to a close. In half a month, we're done with one book, and one very long book for that matter. So yeah, we're making progress, slow and steady. We keep going.
Yes.
So until we come your way on day 16, just remember, you're not alone.
Today,
God bless you.